and gentlemen, welcome back to the World AI Show. Well, we hope you all had a great networking break. You were able to visit the booths and also network with one another. As promised, we're right now on our Fireside Chat on cloud governance, and as per schedule, our topic is RPA and NLP, the arms of AI transformation. Well, the subtopics being chatbots, then versus now, RPA driving intelligent automation across enterprises, robotic intervention in a human-led job, how is NLP making lives easier, and effects of NLP on customer experience. Well, we're joined by our eminent guests. First up, Guru Adrakatti, the Chief Digital and Innovation Officer, HLMG company. Well, a global executive with demonstrated capability of combining digital technologies, ecosystems, and industry expertise to drive digital transformation, IR4, and a passion for delivering value to business through technology. Thank you so much, Guru, for joining us today.
You're welcome, Mona. It's a pleasure to be on this show.
Likewise. And this conversation is going to be moderated by Lugtu, founder and CEO, Hungry Workforce. Well, Ray is a digital and a culture transformation thought and action leader, a sought after public speaker and an accomplished educator, author, business columnist, and an innovation coach. Thank you so much, Ray, for joining us today.
Happy to be back, Bhavana.
Likewise. So with this, Ray, the stage and screen is all yours with Guru to take it forth with an amazing fireside chat. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you for that great context setting, Bhavana. No, indeed, NLP and RPA are changing our lives and transforming a lot of organizations, especially now during the pandemic. No? So we will talk about NLP and RPA, its impact, challenges, no? As well as adoption and prospects in the future. So we well, Guru, let's start the ball rolling. So NLP, this is an exciting new area. So NLP is quite a new concept. How is NLP being leveraged nowadays? In what applications and what uses?
Sure, Ray. First of all, thanks for hosting this, moderating this, Ray. Appreciate it, and good evening to everybody. I hope we are able to keep you all awake and active because it's the end of the session. So NLP is something which you would have all heard about, and you must have read enough about. A lot of you would have implemented it as well. The way in which I look at NLP in my experience and with what we have been trying to achieve is it's allowing us to do things with text that we were just not able to do, right, from a technology perspective. But from a business perspective, it opens up opportunities immense, irrespective of whether it is retail, manufacturing, or healthcare. So anything that you look at text, it's not just social media, but it is research papers and things like that, is something which we in the past have not been able to analyze and have not been able to offer people in a consumable fashion where people can bring a value out of it. So NLP is an effort as a part of the AI space where it allows you to manage text, get intelligence out of it, and the rest of it is history, right? It's growing multiple folds. The technology is evolving. A lot of use cases which are extremely successful have been adopted in the industry. And you will see NLP across various domains, right? For example, if you look at finance, even in the market analysis, when you are doing, there's a lot of text analytics that goes behind it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are able to look at all the P&Ls and 401 and then all the reports of multiple companies in various countries, and if you are able to analyze your competition or basically say that, hey, look, this is how other companies are growing, this is how other companies are becoming successful. But then if you want to do things without NLP, it's going to take an immense amount of time. Now, if you are able to read these reports across various industries and look at what are the trends and what are the ways in which people have been investing and growing, it certainly is immense value for the business, right? The same way you can look at it in games, right? For example, a lot of sport fans, they would be looking at analyzing and seeing where people and who is going to win, but you may not know the language and you may not know the local and the culture and everything else. And you will be able to really make an assessment of what's going on with various teams, for example, right? So you must be all now looking at the Europe soccer championship and everything else. So some of these things have, immense value for the business, whether it is in terms of finance, even in case of healthcare. You will realize that there is so much of research that is happening now. Without NLP and text analytics, you would probably have not been able to cope up with all the journals and the reports which are getting evolved, right, day after day. And people and doctors, this is a great enabler for them, where they will get a better version out of themselves by looking at the summary of the reports and making sense out of them, bringing intelligence out of this text. So it's a very massive area. It's for us to fathom and see how we can apply this to our business, get value out of it, and convert into something which is extremely meaningful. So it's been growing leaps and bounds in the past, right? One of the applications of NLP is also a chatbot, right? Virtual agents. People have been talking about it, and you've been seeing a lot of application of this. So NLP is around, and it's here to stay, and it's clearly going to grow. And you are already seeing success stories. But then the technology is also evolving every month, right? It's an area which I think we should be always looking up for.
Oh, fascinating, Guru. No? So you mentioned the chatbots. No? Chatbots have been around. No? There's some first generation chatbots, no? And we are in the second generation. So, but what are the technology challenges, behind chatbots? No, there's still a lot of challenges there, I believe. No?
Yeah, it's a question of how you apply. Human language is a complex one, right? So it's not going to be very easy to mimic it. There are multiple things in the language. For example, when you look at context, I think we have been able to crack context to a large extent, which we were not able to do a few years ago. But looking at when a person speaks or when a person is chatting, and if there is a context associated with it, and if we don't catch it, then you are not able to engage with the customer in a meaningful manner, right? It's a very important part in the whole human language. But then I think now there are a lot of algorithms, and then you must have heard a lot about NLU, natural language understanding, things like that, which has evolved in the past few years, where it has become more adopted for many of the use cases. But then there are things which are, like you will see a lot of sarcasm, or you will see things which are irony when you talk about language. But there are a lot of things, even with ambiguity, right? Can the machines handle ambiguity? There are a lot of algorithms which are coming up. There is something called a disambiguation as a concept, and there are a lot of methods in which people are able to disambiguate sentences. But then there is a lot more that is being done in this particular areas, right? Whether it is irony, sarcasm, ambiguity. One of the things that I think what we've been able to evolve, though, is the toolings have evolved where you are able to train the models for a particular domain, for a particular industry, and then you're able to get more meaningful conversations going in a chatbot or a virtual agent, right? So that is something which has grown, and I think that is where I think people should go ahead and still adopt it. If they don't see the level of accuracies that they need, they should be able to train more and then really get the levels of accuracy that they need. Now, the tools are quite user-friendly, where it doesn't really need a technology people doing it. It is something which is more consumable by citizen developers, right? So people will be able to train and then get the accuracy level, and as soon as they get accuracy levels, they should be able to deploy them and move forward. So virtual agent is a very strong area which brings in customer experience as a part of it. but then it's evolved and something which is being applied in multiple domains. It's just whether it's operations or customer experience or any of these, there's a big engagement that happens on virtual agents and chatbots.
All right. I'm hearing, Guru, that chatbot technology is still evolving. All right. So, but how can we, how can adoption be successful, with the evolution of chatbots? No?
So there are a few things we should be companies should look at the adoption of virtual agents and chatbots in a bit more holistic manner. They should not look at it just as a one-off interaction with the customer. It should be looked as an overall process that you are having, and they should pick and choose the platforms which are able to not only bring in some of these technologies together, including machine learning and NLPs, but also there is a lot of automation that goes behind it, right? So the whole process of customer interaction will be beyond just the chatbot. So I would basically say that the adoption is how easy do you make for the business to use it and see value immediately, right? So it's important to look at platforms which are well integrated, which are able to combine these technologies, which are more user friendly, and which are easy to implement, right? Because a lot of these are businesses which are adopting it and not just the technology teams. So I would say three things to conclude on that particular question, Ray. One is look at it a bit more holistically rather than just look at it as one customer interaction. Look at the platform which supports these technologies which goes along with it. As I mentioned, it could be NLP or ML, and the things which are related to automation. And then finally, at the end of it, make sure that these platforms are self-service or something like a citizen developer should be able to use them, right? That is going to be the heart of this success for some of these programs.
All right. So yes, choosing the right platform. No? Right. So now you touch, Guru, on automation. No? Let's move to RPA. No? So RPA now is a big driver in digital transformation across companies. No? How is RPA now driving automation across enterprises?
Yeah, I would say, it's equally big. I would say, Ray. We should be just cautious that we are applying RPA in the right place. Means today, if you look at RPA, it's gone beyond what earlier it used to be just automation of manual things, manual processes. It's now become more intelligent. It's now augmented with machine learning. But then even if you look at just RPA in isolation, we should be very cautious that we apply it in things where the processes where you are able to see value, right? Where there is volume, there is repetitive, and where you need something which can be managed for the quick wins, because it's very critical for us to make sure that RPA is looked more holistically across the organization. If you look at it in pieces, then you may not see the value coming out of it. If you look at it holistically in the organization, you will see so many areas where RPA is required, and you will be able to automate a lot of processes which are human intensive, and that is going to bring a lot of value both in terms of efficiency and productivity gains, right? So that is one area. But then in the past few years, I'm seeing that there are a lot of intelligent RPA as well, right? In the sense people are combining machine learning with RPA, and you are able to get recommendations on a platform which combines RPA and ML, right? So I was just thinking about one example called spend analytics, right? In our manufacturing area, in the supply chain space, even in retail, you will see that a spend is a big area which basically hits your bottom line directly. Any kind of saving that you do in spend is going to bring huge value to the business. Now, a lot of processes related to procurement and the finance processes related to this are getting covered through RPA. And we have seen this happen in the last few years. And this is a very strong use case, and people have been using it extensively. Now, there is a lot of machine learning also which is associated with it, and we're trying to implement things where you are able to look at patterns which are implicit patterns, not something which is very explicit. Then these kind of implicit patterns are getting recognized, and it's getting extended into not just an RPA, but a spend analytics platform, right? Where you are able to recognize that not only people who are doing things manually are able to do it with RPA, and the people who are working on these would be able to focus on more value-added activities, which is the spend analytics, where machine learning helps them to achieve that. So I'm seeing that RPA is growing in the context in which it was thought of in the past few years, but then now you will also see a lot of value coming out when it gets combined with machine learning and a lot of intelligence which gets associated with it. And we are actually seeing these things getting implemented and people seeing value generating directly to the business.
You mentioned an interesting point. So look at RPA holistically, but you also spoke about use cases. No? A lot of use cases there, Guru. So, but how can we make a RPA program successful? What are the key factors there, Guru?
RPA on the face of it can look simple when you look at it in a smaller scale when you're doing pilot, but when you take it at scale, you will start realizing that it should be something which, as a RPA platform, should not only be able to support automation, but also able to support the machine learning and things like this, which I just spoke about. Now, how well are you able to configure your processes on the RPA platform, apart from automating some of these, is going to be critical. So it comes back to how user-friendly it is, how easy it is to manage your processes. And the whole idea of RPA and machine learning is to get into a continuous improvement process of gain in productivity. And it's not a one-time activity, it is a continuous process. And now the processes are expected to change as you bring in more intelligence there. Now the platform should be able to, and it should be nimble enough for people to modify the processes and not make it a big program by itself, right? So that is one key thing. And of course, it should not be that you go ahead and buy multiple platforms, one for RPA, one for ML, and everything like that. Then you spend a lot of time in terms of integration, and then there is a risk. But then if you have platforms which are able to offer this in an integrated way, then you are better off. And then you would. It's just not RPA and ML, right? Then it goes hand in hand with document management. It goes hand in hand with OCRs, case management, things like that. So the process of automating and bringing intelligence and getting and setting that continuous improvement in the organization, in your operations, is something which needs multiple technologies, and the platform should be able to support that. And it's important that it is not held at a technology IT team level. Some of these things are best driven by the businesses, where they should be able to configure and manage their processes, which are changing and evolving over a period of time themselves, rather than IT becoming a bottleneck, right? So I would say those two or three things would be extremely critical for an RPA to be successful.
Yeah, again, highlighting what you said earlier, we should look at RPA holistically because there's multiple parts involved. All right, so yeah, so now we had discussed NLP and RPA, Guru. So, how are these technologies impacting customer experience nowadays?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Ray, and I think that's probably the best question since it sits on the revenue side and hits the revenue, customer engagement, customer lifecycle value, and customer satisfaction and things like that. So it's a very interesting area. That's the first place I have seen where people want to apply these technologies because it really drives a bigger change in the customer experience. So 2 or 3 things which I literally saw in the past. People struggle to make marketing campaigns successful, right? In the sense they generally were not able to segment the customers well enough and drive personalization enough, and there was always a struggle, and these had very limited successes. With all the technologies that we are talking about, when you apply to customer experience, you will start seeing that you are able to personalize your customer engagement. You are able to segment the customers much more granular. So you are able to design, whether it's marketing campaign, or you are able to tailor make customer engagement a lot more based on the customer profile, or a small segment of customer, the profile of that particular segment. So you will be able to personalize a lot. And when you personalize, you are bringing effectiveness of your campaigns. You are able to appeal to the customer a lot more. Now, that is one thing which has personalization has grown big way. So you will see both in chatbots and any of these technologies, personalization is extremely key. A sentiment of customers. How do you really make sure that you are understanding what the customer feels, and then how are you able to engage? And if the customer comes back to you after a couple of months, how do you continue the conversation, and how do you bring that kind of familiarity with the customer, and how do you understand what the customer habits are and behavior is, and how would you bring in relevant conversations and relevant campaigns or relevant recommendations to that customer or the customer segment. So this is changing the way customers are being viewed as, right, from companies. Also, as a customer, you will see so many surprises coming from so many companies, where literally that it matches your taste, and this is what you like to do, and there are so many recommendations and suggestions which keep coming to you. So I would say, both from a consumer perspective as well as businesses which are driving engagement with customers, there is a lot of value in personalization, segmenting, effectiveness, and overall bringing that impact on the revenue side of the business.
Wow, really fascinating, Guru. So, fascinating discussion on NLP and RPA. Truly, and indeed, these technologies are transforming organizations, automating processes, and improving and impacting customer experience. And I think these technologies are here to stay and help organizations, especially during this time of the pandemic. That was really insightful, Guru. Thank you for those insights. Yeah. Any last words, Guru? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any last words, Guru?
The only last few words would be that I would say, stay current on these technologies, because these are evolving. At the same time, invest in technologies which give you a combination which can allow your use case. Make sure that you are testing these for your use cases, and make sure that it is bringing business value. Look at your programs in a bit more holistic fashion, and somewhere try and make sure that this is something which is appealing to a citizen developer. That is the key for adoption. So those are a few things that I would recommend for anybody going after these business cases.
Great insights there from Guru, the guru of AI, NLP, and RPA. So truly insightful. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Back to you, Bhavana.
Thank you so much.